With elections just around the corner and the usual stories of political thugs and their brazen acts of terror, one may wonder, is there ever going to be an end to such trends? Who will bail the cat? And what is the government doing to forestall this trend? You are watching NAPTIP on the Move. I am Emmanuel Andokwe. So glad to have you join us. Our topic today is on political violence, the efforts of the government through the enactment and implementation of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 to curb the occurrences of this form of violence. It promises to be very enlightening. Stay with us.
The Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 was passed into law to eliminate all forms of violence in private and public life. These include physical, psychological, sexual, domestic, harmful traditional practices, and discrimination against persons. It provides maximum protection and effective remedies for victims and punishment of offenders. There are numerous punishable offences under the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, including political violence.
Generally, under the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, when you commit any act of violence, including physical harm, emotional harm, psychological harm, you come in under the law. But for political violence, it has to do with physical harm, So when you now hit the other person with any form of object, either iron rod, or even a stick, and what is popularly known in Nigeria as koboko, that is a horsewhip, and use it on the other person to cause him any form of discomfort, even if you raise it up, because sometimes apprehension is also part of the crime. So when you put him under a state of fear that is going to be, dealt with, and that person now under that fear, now do certain things to your own satisfaction, you must have committed the offense. And this kind of violence actually, has been provided for under the law. Section 23 defines political violence as violence which occurred during political gathering from one individual to another or group of individuals to another set of individuals, and thereby caused injury of any form using any form of object or substance to put that person in the state of harm or to even harm the person. Absolutely. And once such a thing happens and it is reported to NAPTIP, we are going to take action, and we are empowered to arrest, to detain, and prosecute such persons under the Act.
Factors responsible for political violence include
youthful exuberance. That particular stage in one's life when you feel you can do everything and everything is within your palms and you rule your life. But many of them have lost their life in that process. Poverty, because the politicians offer them money. Lack of political education, because I know that if people are politically sensitized, they will know that the politicians have their children. So if they need people to do mayhem for them, they should put their children in front.
There are penalties for perpetrators of political violence.
If you commit a political violence against the other and we are able to try you, the court is empowered to convict such a person to not less than 4 years imprisonment or an option of fine of 500,000 naira. And if in any case we cannot get direct evidence and we are only able to prosecute you for attempted act of political violence, you go in for 2 years imprisonment. That is what the law has provided for. And for others who also incite political violence, that is to say that you now start encouraging the youth in particular to go and carry arms, to cause harm or mayhem in either a particular community or in the society or in any particular gathering at all. For aiding and abetting, you also come in as a suspect. We can arrest you for inciting the victim, the suspects. So that one too is 2 years imprisonment, an option of fine of 300,000 naira.
Women and children are most affected during political violence.
Women and children are particularly vulnerable when it comes to political violence, especially in the indirect type, where sometimes, most times, they're not directly being attacked, but by virtue of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. The vast majority of women and girls in particular suffer collateral damage from violence that happens in the process of elections. The types of examples that women and girls face are the sorts of examples that are compounded by the violence that women and girls suffer in their daily lives outside of the political sphere. They are also more vulnerable to be coerced depending on their financial status and the level of poverty in the society, to be coerced with, may it be cash or bags of rice, etc. There are stories of women who have their strong convictions about the candidates that they would prefer to vote for and support, but they may be in an abusive domestic environment or an environment where the husband in the family insists on which way the rest of the family should vote. Additionally, if a woman is pregnant or breastfeeding or elderly or living with a disability, she suffers an additional layer of violence around politics and elections.
Violence by state actors is categorized as political violence, and there are penalties.
State actors are those people who actually are structured or group of persons. It does not necessarily mean they are government workers, but then they could be agents of government, so to say. So even if you are working for government and you go beyond your own mandate in order to cause violence against the other persons, you can still be taken up and tried under the law. And the penalty also is 4 years imprisonment, for causing violence against another. And when you attempt, it is going to be 2 years imprisonment. And when you aid and abet, it will be 3 years imprisonment.
As the agency mandated to implement the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, NAPTIP plays a major role in this regard.
The Director General has approached INEC. Ordinarily, NAPTIP should have been part of the monitoring mechanisms for the elections, because it's only under the Violence Against Persons Act. It is expressly captured, and the idea is to provide some level of protective umbrella for young persons not to be exposed and actually not to be harmed during in this politically charged space.
In the past, violence during political gatherings has been taken for granted. People just believe they have a right to take sticks, to take iron, to take objects and hit the other person, injure him, and nothing will happen. But under this law, it is no longer business as usual. So the whole public, Nigerian public, particularly in FCT where this law is very much operational, that you should be very much wary of your act. Once you conduct this kind of activity, you'll be taken up under the law and you'll be punished under the law.
Adequate preparation for election, continuous enlightenment and education will help to ensure an electoral process devoid of violence.
What we do is to have that conversation up and going. We are bringing it in their dinner tables. We are speaking to them why you should not engage, why you should not be enlisted, why you should not be part of this process, okay, to go and disturb the political arrangement of your opponent or that of the individual opponent of your principal, because you may lose your life. So it's under the Violence Against Persons Act that NAPTIP enforces. We're still watching. We're still going to enforce some mechanisms to make sure that officers are at alert. Any of these things, please report to NAPTIP.
For the general public, NAPTIP has a word of advice.
We are advising the public, including the state actors, so to say. INEC is doing whatever they can to ensure that all the processes are in order. The security agencies, including NAPTIP, are doing what they can to ensure that they maintain orderliness during the election period. So we are advising Nigerian public, to conduct their own civic responsibility of going to vote for the candidate of their choice without any hit and hindrance, and they should not participate in any act of political violence.
Political violence, though a punishable offence, can be avoided, and a violence-free election is indeed possible. But all hands must be on deck to achieve this.
Every day, NAPTIP receives reports on all forms of violence against persons, diverse cases of domestic violence, rape, incest, physical abuse, especially child abuse. This has got to stop. NAPTIP is ever ready to ensure justice for victims, but you have to speak up. NAPTIP is working tirelessly to ensure that victims are compensated and offenders severely punished. But we need a lot of support. The VAP Act can be most effective when each state government takes the required steps to domesticate the act. The victims shun the culture of silence and neighbors step in to act. We all have a role to play in the effective implementation of the VAP Act. This is a call to all state governors to waste no further time in securing the life and well-being of their indigents. NAPTIP is working with different stakeholders, including the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program of the British Council. But we need more support to stop violence against persons in Nigeria.
Report all cases of violence against persons to these hotlines: 0703 0000 203, 080 2255 627847. NAPTIP, ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation.
Now you know it is an offense, and when anyone invites you to act as a political thug, please kindly ask their permission to have their children lead the way. NAPTIP Events is next. Don't go away.
The Director General of the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, Dame Julie Okadole, recently paid a courtesy visit to the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, His Excellency Umaru Tanko Almakura, at the Government House, Lafia, Nasarawa State. Stating the purpose of her visit, Dame Julie Okadole in her speech requested for a piece of land to situate the NAPTIP Training Institute and also for closer collaboration for a massive awareness campaign on issues of violence against persons, the dangers of human trafficking and irregular migration across the state.
Human trafficking is a low-risk, high-profit, sophisticated crime that constitutes a major security threat to any nation. It is fueled by the push and pull factors and has assumed international dimensions, evolving daily with new tricks and trends, including organ harvesting. Our request is very simple. We're requesting for the donation of land for the development and construction of a NAPTIP Human Trafficking Institute. This will accommodate administrative structures, residential quarters, parade grounds, sporting facilities, among other key components, as well as the skill acquisition centers that will be used to train not just the victims of trafficking, but anyone who requires any skill in this state and even outside of this state. Your Excellency, we also wanted to set a date for us to flag off a massive awareness campaign. Sensitization is key in all of these things we've been talking about, we need to start off with the sensitization campaign to educate everyone here, for them to know what is going on and know what to report, who to report to, and how to report cases of human trafficking. We have numbers, we have helpline numbers that they can report to, and they're able to identify, human trafficking at the moment they see it and nip it in the bud.
She also enjoined His Excellency Governor Almakura to domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015 and to establish an anti-human trafficking task force in Nasarawa State, which will work with NAPTIP to curb the menace in the state.
You've already domesticated the Child Rights Act here, but Your Excellency, it's not being implemented the way we want to see it done. So maybe you should help us to implement it better and to also domesticate the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. You also wanted to set a date for us to come and officially set up the task force on human trafficking, which will be inaugurated by His Excellency and which will be working with NAPTIP to ensure that Nasarawa State is a traffic-free state.
Responding, His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Nasarawa State, pledged his support to NAPTIP and to partner with the agency to stamp out human trafficking and acts of violence from his state.
I consider Nasarawa State to be vulnerable, highly vulnerable in human trafficking. This is because of our closeness to the Federal Capital Territory, where it has become a transit state, where there are, so to say, job opportunities. But in the process of getting jobs, people are forced into labor at very prohibitive ages. We want to assure you that we will collaborate with you, partner with you in ensuring that the war you are doing against trafficking in persons is successful. I assure you that Nasarawa State will be one of your most desired centers and outreach that will support all your efforts. And as far as your request is concerned, I want to assure you that Nasarawa State is going to partner with you and support you in ensuring that your dream for establishing an institute in Nasarawa State comes to pass.
Present at the meeting was the Deputy Governor, Silas Ali Agara, Secretary to the State Government, Muhammad Hassan Abdullahi, Member, Federal House of Representatives, Honorable Abubakar Sarki Dahiru, officials of State House and members of the press. Advocacy visits is one of the agency's key strategies in fulfilling its mandate. Officials of the Nigerian High Commission in Libya, led by the Chargé d'Affaires, His Excellency Alex Enan Kefas, paid a courtesy visit to the Director General of NAPTIP, Dame Julie Okadole, and her team at the agency's headquarters in Abuja. The Chargé d'Affaires, His Excellency Alex Enan Kefas, stated the purpose of their visit.
Your agency has been performing a very wonderful role. I must commend you, the DG, but also your entire staff for the job well done, and that I felt it is imperative for me to be here to share ideas and also to seek ways of collaboration, because the issues of irregular migration is really causing a great havoc to the image of our dear country.
Welcoming the Libyan delegation, the NAPTIP Director General spoke on the role and responsibilities of the agency.
NAPTIP, as you know, is the federal government's response to combating the scourge. It was established in 2003 through an act of parliament, which was reenacted in 2015 as the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition, Enforcement and Administration Act. We also administer the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015, but it's currently operational only in FCT, and we hope that other states will domesticate it. Of course, our core values are integrity, commitment, service, protection of human rights, gender equality, and victims protection generally. And then we come up with these strategies, NAPTIP 5P strategies, that's what we call it. Prevention, protection, prosecution, partnership, and policy. And so far we've had 6,221 cases reported, cases investigated 3,658, traffickers arrested 5,421, 304 convictions, convicted persons 368, rescued victims 13,285. IOM has, evacuated quite a number, about 7,000 so far, and NAPTIP about 3,500.
She also highlighted areas of possible collaboration with the Nigerian High Commission in Libya.
We help to facilitate with IOM, of course, continuous rescue of Nigerian victims trapped in various parts of Libya and repatriate them back. Awareness creation at the border towns, at all those little places where they sneak into, just put some billboards, phone numbers, tell them trafficking is real. If you fear you're going to be trafficked, call this, call that. So all those little things may also help. The embassy should also engage in serious enlightenment campaigns for the Nigerians that are there, so they know what they are doing, even for those that go through the airports, so that once they arrive at the airports, they know what they are going in for, and they register them. Once they are Nigerians, they register them. But of course, most of them go through road. They hardly go by airports, so they go through the borders and all of that. So if you can also find a way to have Nigerian security in these borders where they pass through too, to give them information, give them phone numbers that they can call, and let them know that this is what you're going for, so that if they have a change of mind, they can turn back. Then of course, publicizing NAPTIP and the Nigerian embassy's helplines in Libya, very, very important for easy contact, by the nationals who may find themselves at risk of trafficking.
Effective collaboration is a key strategy in the agency's campaign in ensuring a human trafficking and violence-free nation.
The Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program of the British Council, ROLAC, funded by the European Union, recently held a stakeholders consultative forum on implementation of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. The forum had the following objectives: foster clarity of roles and collaboration among stakeholders in the implementation of VAP, obtain input into the design of the Sexual Offenders Register, and receive nominations on credible service providers related to the Act across communities nationwide. Consultant to the ROLAC project and facilitator Amina Salihu highlighted the advantages and challenges regarding the Sexual Offenders Register. This led to an interactive session where stakeholders contributed to the contents of the register. Breakout sessions enabled group discussions on various salient points, which were later presented by the group representatives. Goodwill messages were delivered by some key stakeholders, including the representative of the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development, major non-governmental organizations against gender-based violence, and the technical assistant to the Vice President on Gender Projects, Hadiza Aminu. Priscilla Ankot of the ROLAC project also addressed the stakeholders. Representative of the NAPTIP Director General, the Director of Research and Program Development, Godwin Walker, spoke on the agency's role in implementing the VAP Act.
The issue of the Sexual Offenders Register is a requirement of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which NAPTIP is administered to, 2015 Act. The Act actually mandates NAPTIP to set up such a register in order to keep track of recidivist sexual offenders and those who have been convicted of those offenses.
He also emphasized on the issues addressed by the forum and the importance of the Sexual Offenders Register.
We are going to make it a database that has several layers, so that anybody who is employing somebody, anybody who is running a school, somebody you're employing a driver, you're employing a gate man, you're employing people to work in your orphanage and in the boarding house and all that, you should know the kind of persons you are employing and know whether these are people who have tendencies for sexual offenses.
Some of the attendees then shared the importance of the forum in relation to their work. They also commended the initiative. A stakeholder consultative forum on the implementation of the VAP Act had participants drawn from across the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria.
NAPTIP On the Move is co-sponsored by the Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Program, ROLAC, funded by the European Union and implemented by the British Council. For more enquiries and support, or to report cases of suspected human trafficking and violence against persons, call NAPTIP hotlines on 0703 0000 203 or 0800 2255 627847 or email info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria and watch our videos on YouTube.
This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode. I must thank you for watching and urge you to support NAPTIP by reporting suspected cases of violence against persons, human trafficking, and child abuse. Hope to see you again, same time next week. I am Emmanuel Andekwe. Goodbye.